Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and today it is a two-round mock draft, and we're going based upon some rumors that have happened over the last couple weeks, and that is the Denver Broncos are looking to make a big move for one of the top three quarterbacks in this upcoming draft to fully replace Russell Wilson. Make sure to hit the like and leave a comment in the comment section below, and subscribe if you haven't already. We got a lot of videos coming up in the coming months leading up to the draft especially, and don't do a lot of trades usually in this draft. Usually it's like one trade, but this one seems to be a big one. And this one might have a little bit more legs to it than maybe, a Minnesota trading up, for example. And this would involve, I'm looking at it as this is an opportunity for Chicago to further invest in Justin Fields, which I don't find to be likely. I think it's much more likely that it's the New England Patriots that would trade back in this scenario. Maybe grab a quarterback elsewhere, maybe grab a veteran instead. But for the sake of this video, we're trading up to number one with the Denver Broncos. I got three trades that we're going to talk about that I did. All of them are going to be involving teams moving up to get quarterbacks. So we'll do that. And we'll start with the big one, of course. It's Denver trading up to number one. They're going to give Chicago the 12th overall pick. And I went based upon the Carolina Panthers trade from last year and added a little bit of value to it. Or what I at least felt was some value to it. Because, 9-1 and then 12-1, there is a significant difference in that, maybe more than people say. I had Patrick Surtain in there as the trade bait in terms of being the player, sort of like DJ Moore was. And I basically valued Patrick Surtain and DJ Moore at very similar trade value, I would say. But Chicago is going to get 12. They're also going to get a first and a second in next year's draft, and they're going to get a first in 2026. That makes up for Denver not being able to give up a second round pick in this year's draft, and not wanting to give up a third round pick in this year's draft either, than not be picking again into the fourth round. They still need to make some moves in this draft. So this allows them, they are yet again, just kind of like the Russell Wilson thing, they're sort of punting their first round picks for the next couple of years, which can be frustrating. But if Caleb Williams turns out to be the guy and it works out with Sean Payton, you're not going to be too concerned about those picks. And you can make up for it in other ways by maybe moving a couple other pieces around. We also had Buffalo trading back from 28 to 42 with Minnesota. So Minnesota misses out on the top three quarterbacks, obviously. But they come up to get one of their own. We'll talk about who that is later. In return, Buffalo gets 42, 108, and a third-round pick in 2025. And then the New York Giants, who picked at 6, they miss out on the top three quarterbacks. They're going to trade up to grab one. We'll talk about who that is later. With Kansas City, who's maybe looking to trade back a bit, maybe get a couple picks, because they got some certain positions that maybe aren't the strongest in this class right now, and they can afford to move back and still maybe get the guy. They're going to pick up 39, 107, and a fourth-round pick in 2025. So I feel like those last two trades, the trade-ups, really benefits both teams. And then, of course, the big one with Denver and Chicago. So let's get into the actual picks. 2 rounds, we go 8 by 8. Let's take a look. Let's get through it. Don't want this video to be too long. Let's go. So, of course, like I said, Denver's trading up to get Caleb Williams at number 1. I think that the run of 3 quarterbacks to go 1, 2, and 3, I think that's still the most likely scenario, with that being the order as well. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. I think it all really depends on who. It's really just a matter of who's at number 1. I think the Patriots and Washington are both kind of locked in at the quarterback. I think Chicago, over the next couple weeks, is going to be figuring that out. And I think the ultimate, I don't know that this trade is going to actually go down, just because I don't know that Chicago is going to want to pass up on Caleb Williams. I could see Denver acquiring Justin Fields, though, not losing so much draft capital. But top 3 quarterbacks, we go over this pretty often. I think most mockers do. We got 2 receivers going off the board as well. Marvin Harrison Jr., natural fit for the Arizona Cardinals. Him and Kyler Murray, I think, could be a real force in that offense. And you got Malik Neighbors going to the New York Giants. I think that's another obvious pick. They have nothing going on wide receiver. Even if they do bring in a big-time wide receiver, a veteran, I still think that this is still the pick, unless they're trading back. And then you got two offensive linemen, Joe Alt or Olu Fashanu. Joe Alt going to Harbaugh's Chargers. I think he would really like to continue to build that offensive line and build around a quarterback like Justin Herbert, who he really loves. And then Olu Fashanu going to Tennessee. I think he's a really good pass protector. So you're going to plug him in right away at left tackle. And Brian Callahan's offense is going to get run through that. And then you got Skoronski there, who you can sort of move around, I think, if need be. You're probably going to be looking for some receivers. You got Treylon Burks, DeAndre Hopkins. I'm sure those two guys are going to excel in this offense, but you still need some more help there as well. So I could look for that in the later rounds, maybe even through free agency. There could be some good options in there. And then Dallas Turner, the first edge off the board to Atlanta. This makes sense to me, with Raheem Morris becoming the coach. He's going to want to build a pass rush, and you grab the best pass rusher available, and it really has been a glaring issue for the Atlanta Falcons defense. So he's coming in specifically to fix that aspect of it above anything else, because it has been so inconsistent and not great, especially with the pass rush. So I like this. I like this pickup for him. So now we'll get to the two Chicago Bears picks. Rome Odunze at 9. I think it's a pretty obvious pick. Even if they do keep number 1, if he's there, I think that's an easy selection for them to make. And then when they traded back, they're going to grab Jared Verse to be the edge rusher opposite Montez Sweat moving forward. I really like that combination. I think grabbing an edge could really help put this defense over the top. You got some tackles coming off the board again with Talisi Fuaga, who's getting a lot of buzz for the New York Jets. He is a right tackle, so this could be like a Darnell Wright pick from last year. You see J.C. Latham there going to the Raiders. A little too early for them to reach for a quarterback, perhaps at this point. You got some weapons here. Brock Bowers, first tight end. Good players drop in the draft. And Brock Bowers, I think, is going to be a very interesting case. I do think that his floor is really about here. I don't foresee too many other teams really passing up on him. I think the Jets is a real possibility unless they value the offensive lineman more. Minnesota, he'll get past Minnesota. He'll get past Chicago. Both of them pay tight ends. He'll get past the Raiders. They just drafted Michael Mayer. He'll probably get past the Saints as well, just because, they got a barrage of tight ends in there as well that really work well in that offense. So I think 15, 16, that's really the floor there. But I do think he can go as high as the Chargers. And then we got another edge guy coming off, Liatu Latu to the Seattle Seahawks. I think this is his floor as well. And then we got two corners, Kool-Aid McKinstry going to the Minnesota Vikings and Nate Wiggins going to the New Orleans Saints. Minnesota kind of missed out on the quarterbacks as well. I think they can look for that in a different round, of course. Maybe they keep Kirk Cousins after all. Nate Wiggins going to the Saints, just, build on some good defensive players. You got some big contracts maybe expected to come up. You are in salary cap hell, so re-signing a lot of guys could become an issue just because of how they've structured everything with, restructuring contracts, void years, all that kind of stuff. So replenishing, and you can't help but replenish the pass defense either. I think it's a really good strategy to have to sort of stay ahead of the developing offenses that are within your division. And we're going to get our first interior defensive lineman off the board. It's going to be Johnny Newton. I think this could be a wide receiver as well. It depends on what they do in free agency, of course. But I really like adding him in there and be a real good three down all-purpose interior defensive lineman. We got some offensive linemen going off the board there. Amarius Mims to the Bengals. And then Troy Fautanu to the Rams. Fautanu's got an offensive tackle / interior offensive lineman. I think he's going to be more of a tackle than an interior guy, but I think his ability to play both will be quite appealing, especially for the Rams just want to get their best 5 on the field. Then you see at the bottom the Dallas Cowboys, Graham Barton. I think you plug him in at guard and then allows Tyler Smith to kick out the tackle. And you got a good. I really like making that pick for Dallas. I feel like it makes a lot of sense for them. We get a run of corners. Cooper DeJean going to the Miami Dolphins. He can sort of play everywhere, so I think that's a really good pickup for them. Terry and Arnold is getting some buzz now. He might even be the first Alabama corner taken off the board. The way things are looking, it'll be interesting to see how the workouts go. But the Eagles are desperate. They really need help in the secondary. And then Quinyon Mitchell, I like him going to Houston. I like him and Derek Stingley being the 1-2 punch out there at corner and help D'Amico Ryans continue to build that defense, especially because in the AFC especially, you're dealing with a lot of high-powered offenses with really great quarterbacks. And then I love making this pick. I've been making it a bunch. Pittsburgh, Keon Coleman, wide receiver, Florida State. I just don't foresee that wide receiver group staying intact. And I think at least one of them is gone out of the top two. I say it every time, and I'm going to stick to it until proven otherwise, I will say. And we have a second interior guy coming off the board here. It's the Byron Murphy, the interior defensive lineman out of Texas, starting to get some buzz. So I feel like he finds his way in there, and I think Green Bay would really benefit from having guys playing on the interior there, even though their real problem is against the run. I think having a good rotational guy to put in you can build him into being a 3-down guy. And then the two trades, Minnesota, of course, traded up. They get Michael Penix Jr., quarterback from Washington. And then the Giants trade back in to get Bo Nix, quarterback at Oregon. I think it's a fun little experiment to run there, considering both teams seeming to want to grab their quarterbacks in this draft, the quarterbacks of the future. But I think you can still re-sign Kirk Cousins maybe if you're Minnesota to a 1-year deal, just in case, Penix might need the year out. I think that's a possibility. We get some wide receivers. Brian Thomas going to the Bucks. Adonai Mitchell going to the Lions. I think these are two really instant contributors, especially with Mike Evans probably on his way out in Tampa. And Adonai Mitchell just being there as a replacement for Josh Reynolds, who had some major issues in that NFC Championship game, unfortunately. Chop Robinson falls a bit there. Arizona's happy to pick him up. Kamari Lassiter going to the Baltimore Ravens. There's going to be some turnover in that secondary, and you want to keep that strength of the defense a strength. Especially at this point, you can work on getting guys in that offense that fit certain needs that you might have situationally throughout this draft. I think getting Kamari Lassiter, he goes immediately opposite Marlon Humphrey with, I think it was Darby that they had out there. He's getting up there. And then Jordan Morgan, so there's Jordan Addison. Jordan Morgan from Arizona, the tackle, going to San Francisco. Again, I think that's a pretty easy pick that they'll be looking at an offensive lineman in this first round. Flying here into the second round, Braylon Trice, the edge out of Washington, just taking the best player on the board, I feel, would be the best bet for Carolina at this point. Tyler Guyton, the tackle, comes in from Oklahoma, pair him up with that quarterback. Enos Rexstraw from Missouri, he's getting some buzz too, sort of like Byron Murphy is. I could see him finding his way into at least the top 40, especially a team like Arizona who could use the corner help. Two Washington picks here. Both are going to be on defense. Chris Braswell, the edge. They don't really have edge players other than KJ Henry. So bringing him in to work with new head coach Dan Quinn, I think is going to do pretty well for him. And then Edgerrin Cooper, the linebacker from Texas A&M. I think Dan Quinn learned his lesson about trying to have a defense without a true inside linebacker, a true off-ball linebacker. So trying to improve that immediately, I think will be a priority of his. We got two weapons coming off the board. Troy Franklin to the Chargers. That's, again, another fun toy for Jim Harbaugh to work with. And then the Titans, I have him going to Tavion Sanders. Might be a little early for him. He might not make it in the second round. He might be a third-round pick, an early third-round pick, but I think the Titans grabbing him makes a lot of sense. And then the Chiefs, who traded back, of course, with the Giants there. They're going to grab Chris Jenkins, the interior defensive lineman out of Michigan. Fills a need without them feeling like they had to reach, so they can collect some extra draft capital there, as you guys saw in the trade breakdown. And then the other trade back was, of course, Buffalo, and they're doing it to grab Xavier Worthy. A lot of the receivers were already off the board, so they can trade back, get a good receiver that they could use out there. And, again, more draft capital to do other things with. Xavier Legette goes right after. I could see that being flipped as well. It all depends on what you're really looking for. And Devontae Walker going to the Jacksonville Jaguars there at 48 from North Carolina. Another guy getting some buzz around here. Two safeties coming off the board. Cameron Kitchens, I got him going to Green Bay. And then Tyler Nubin going to the New Orleans Saints. I think that's a really sneaky pick for them, even if they do go corner in the first round like I had them do. We got cornerback, another defensive back, this one Kalen King, going to the Indianapolis Colts. To help improve that secondary that is kind of depleted of some talent. Cooper Beebe, the guard, going to the New York Giants. They really need the interior help. They've invested a lot in the tackles. You hope that with the new offensive line coach coming over from the Raiders that he can get something out of Evan Neal at the right tackle position. So you're going to want to build that interior further. Pair him up with second-year center John Michael Schmitz. And then the big one there, J.J. McCarthy to the Raiders. They're a team I think that's going to be looking for the quarterback as well. And if they can grab one in the second round, I think they'll find tremendous value in that. There's a lot of talk of J.J. McCarthy going to the Raiders in the first round. So I think if they can grab him here in the second round, the fan base will be really happy adding him and adding J.C. Latham, who I had them also pick. We got a couple of interior guys going here. Let's start with Tavondre Sweat to the Cincinnati Bengals. This is like your DJ Readers coming up as a free agent. And you want to get a big bruising nose, space-eating nose tackle in there. And then Leonard Taylor going to the Cleveland Browns. He's a nice little compliment to Siaki Ika, who they drafted last year. We got some offensive linemen as well coming off the board. Kingsley Suamatiai, easy for me to say, from BYU, going to the Eagles. That's pretty much coming in as your third tackle. Anticipating Tyler Steen kicks inside to start at guard. And then Cam Jurgens kicks into center with Jason Kelce seemingly retired. Patrick Paul going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Playing opposite Broderick Jones. You got your two bookend tackles there. I also like Jackson Powers Johnson. Couldn't fit his whole name in there. Going to the Dolphins as an interior offensive lineman with Austin Jackson and Teron Armstead pretty much sewn up there. You want to work on that interior line. We got another linebacker off the board. The Eagles getting a second pick there. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Nice little feel-good pick there. I was liking to make that pick early in the mock draft cycle just because it's a feel-good story. And here I can make it again. And then we got the first running back off the board, Trey Benson, going to the Dallas Cowboys. Pair him up with either Tony Pollard. I think it's a good 1-2 punch. Or Tony Pollard's gone. And they bring in Derrick Henry. I still think it's a good idea to get another running back. So you don't, Derrick Henry is at that back end of his career. He's carried the ball a lot over the last couple seasons, picked up a couple of nicks and injuries along the way. So you want to have a good backup plan. You don't want to be stuck kind of like how the Cowboys were. You want to have a really good running game. It seems to be the last thing missing. So, you add your offensive guard in Graham Barton. You add another running back in there. And you can have a really solid offense now across the board. Coming around to the last slide here, we got two wide receivers, Ladd McConkey and Johnny Wilson, going to Baltimore and Kansas City. Again, that's just, helping out your quarterbacks. You did some other things with your early picks, and now you're coming in. Get a weapon out there for Baltimore as well, especially with Rashad Bateman. I don't think he's too long for this world. Johnny Wilson comes in. He plays opposite Rashee Rice. Boom. Great little group there. We got some more guys in the secondary. TJ Tampa, the cornerback, going to Tampa. Again, nice little, cute little pick there. Kalen Bullock, the safety from USC, gets to pair up with the other USC safety, Hufanga. We also got two interior defensive linemen going again. This is Rook Ohorohoro to the Texans. They have some good edge play. Maybe bring back Jonathan Grenard. Of course, you got Will Anderson. Now you want to build on that interior group. And then Brandon Dorless to the Buffalo Bills from Oregon, defensive lineman as well. And then two offensive linemen, Kieran Amegadagi from Yale. I tried, guys. I think that's a really good pickup for Green Bay. Just trying to, again, they're one of those teams just trying to find their best five now that they definitely have their quarterback in Jordan Love. And then Zach Frazier, an interior guy going to Detroit. I like him to play one of the guard positions. Jonah Jackson's sort of on his way out. He could be a free agent. Don't really need to bring him back. He's never really been, he's been average to solid, for most of his career there. So you want to you can replace him. And I think that worst case scenario, Zach Frazier gives you what you were going to have in him at a much cheaper price and allows you to develop him a little bit as well. So there you have it. 6 quarterbacks going to new homes: Denver, Washington, New England, the Giants, Minnesota, and the Raiders. Maybe the Raiders have to trade up to get J.J. McCarthy also. Didn't really seem like they had to in this scenario. Everyone that was going to get a quarterback sort of went and did their thing, allowed them to sit there and let the board come to them. But let me know in the comment section below what you think of the trade, specifically the one by Denver to trade up to number 1. And any other thoughts you have on what I did with your team in this mock draft. And I will see you guys with the next video next time.